From the studios of WPGX, Fox 28, it's News View with Don Arias.
Welcome to News View. I'm Don Arias, and tonight I have candidate for Bay County property appraiser, Greg Laplante. Greg, you made another splash in the newspapers here recently.
You name it, I'm always flashing in the newspapers and
Yeah.
on the website and on my campaign site, the gregforbaypa.com. I'm on there making a splash all the time, and I'm fighting for the people of Bay County.
I read an article in the local paper here that says that 60% of the land in Bay County is classified as agricultural. Although we're known as a tourist destination, a lot of our land is classified agricultural, and it's taxed that way. You said in this article that you would like to have the law applied differently.
Right.
Or in a different way.
Right. What I've said was to get rid of $2 per acre and save our schools and community. And that's a little bit misunderstood. What it really means is that you have these agricultural properties.
So just, if we go back up for a minute,
Sure.
just for people who are maybe just tuning in and maybe not familiar with the whole story like we are, you pay $2 an acre if you own agricultural land in taxes, right? Is that right?
That is correct. Less than $2 per acre in property tax. And so more than 60% of the land in Bay County pays less than $2 per acre in property tax. And that is an absolute disaster for your schools, for your law enforcement, and you've probably seen the cutbacks and everything else. And $2 an acre does not pay the bills for Bay County.
So, but what if it is agricultural? I mean, what's wrong with that?
Well, the property appraiser is supposed to determine on an annual basis what land in Bay County is agricultural or is not agricultural. And so, you know, I have the law right here. It says that the property appraiser shall, on an annual basis, classify for assessment purposes all land within the county as either agricultural or non-agricultural. And there you have it. The property appraiser shall classify. Now,
on an annual basis?
On every single year, annual basis.
That seems like a huge job. Once a year, you got to look at all the property in Bay County and say, go, no go.
You have to,
agricultural or non-agricultural?
Right, right. Or initially, what I'm really after is this, Don. What you do is you remove all these agricultural classifications, remove them all. And we did this one time before. Then you have an agricultural application that you make. And these properties are supposed to be inspected. They're supposed to be looked at, because you have a lot of these properties that they're not ag. They have not been farmed in years, or they are development lands, or they are lands inside subdivisions and things of this nature. And so therefore they would not qualify. And again, Bay County desperately needs the money from all the land in Bay County at a rate greater than $2 per acre.
Greg, we've got to run off to a break. But we're talking with Greg Laplante. He's a candidate for Bay County property appraiser. Thank you very much. And he wants to apply the law a little differently. He has no party affiliation, but he's a pretty interesting guy. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
You're watching News View with Don Arias.
Welcome back to News View. I'm talking with Greg Laplante, who is a candidate for Bay County property appraiser. Okay, you've made the big splash. We've seen the article in the Panama City News Herald that says you want to apply the law differently to make sure that land that is classified as agricultural that may not really be classified as something else.
Right.
Now, the incumbent, Dan Sowell, who's the present property appraiser, says you would run afoul of the law if you tried to do that.
Right.
Well, what do you say to that?
Well, he's wrong, because I have the law right here, and the law very clearly states that the property appraiser shall classify this land, all land in the county, as either agricultural or non-agricultural every year. So he's trying to say, oh, well, take it to the state legislature, and I'm saying, no, I'm going to take it right to the voters of Bay County, because they know, and they've probably seen some of this land. And the trick to it, Don, is this. What you do is remove all these agricultural classifications. Then they have a form right here. This is the DR 482. This is the application form for agricultural classification of land. And there's a lot of very interesting things on here. Number one, there's what is the land being used for? And one of the big things in there is, did you pay more than 3 times the ag value of the land? What did you pay for the land? If your purchase price is more than 3 times the ag value of the land, then it's not ag. So in other words, you can't go in there and buy a piece of property for $5 million and turn around and, oh, Greg, just put me down for a farmer or whatever so that I can just avoid the taxes on their whatever. And see, you just can't do that. And see, a lot of these properties...
So let me see if I understand this, because most of us are just unaware of this whole process.
Right.
There are, no kidding, criteria that the property appraiser's office has to use to classify something as agricultural to get that $2 an acre.
Right.
What you're saying is that that criteria is not necessarily being followed presently?
Yes, that's exactly right. What we need is strict enforcement of the law. Because number one, the property appraiser is the person that classifies it, not the state. It's up to him to go out there and accept the application, because it says right here, either you accept it or you deny it, one or the other. It's up to him to go out there and look at these properties to see what it is. Is it being farmed? What is the purchase price of this property? And just a wide range of things. And they're just getting away with murder. And you also look at who are these people? Who owns this land?
Yeah, why don't you give me some examples without naming particular names? I mean, do you have some examples of specific maybe lots or plots or tracts of land that should not be paying this agricultural tax rate?
Yes, I do. It's in the Lake Muriel subdivision. I have one of them. It'll take me just a minute to find it. But before I do that, let me explain something else here. As far as this St. Joe company, I have some documents here, and the first one says, this is straight from St. Joe.
Right.
It says, we're long out of the paper and pulpwood business, now an innovative, even maverick land development company. So what does that tell? If I tell you that
they've transitioned from timber farming
they are
to
real
land
estate
developers.
Companies. Exactly, because they come right out. We're long out of the paper and pulpwood business. And Don, if I said I was long out of the paper and pulpwood business, what would you think?
You're long out of the paper and pulp business.
Thank you. You agree with me.
Well, that's what you're saying. Now, would they say, just to give it some context, because I really want to be fair to everyone here.
Sure.
Were they talking about a specific area, or were they just talking about the whole St. Joe company in general?
The entire
across the board?
St. Joe
company. Are they totally out of the timber industry?
That's what they said. And then also, I have an SEC document right here from SEC, meaning Securities and Exchange Commission, where it says right here that we have, and this is from 2006, we have reclassified all of our land to timber acres 0. And what that means is you've told every stockholder in the country,
timber acre 0,
that you have reclassified all of your land to timber acres 0. This is this is an SEC filing. So that's what they told.
So if they tell the Securities and Exchange Commission, first in their public statement, they say, okay, we're long out of the wood and pulp, paper, tree business or whatever. Right. And then they go file with the SEC and they make a statement saying, timberland 0, we are now something else.
Right.
Yet here in Bay County, we're almost behind the times. We're behind the power curve with this. Because they're getting this $2 an acre.
Exactly. And bear in mind now, this is the St. Joe company. This is SEC document. They come out and they say that we have reclassified all of our land to timber acres 0. Okay, so what did Greg do? I just agreed with them. That's all I did. I didn't say that they had timber acres. They said that, and Greg agreed with them.
Okay.
That's it right there. And then another important thing.
That's interesting in that you agree with them.
Yeah, Dan Soul, it says that they're still in the business. I'm simply agreeing with the St. Joe statements of what they're saying. They said 0, Greg agrees with them. They said we are long out of the paper and pulpwood business, Greg agrees with them. That's it right there. And for that reason, that's when, in my opinion, they no longer deserve to have this, because they've been transitioning out of this timber business for a long, long time. Now they are a dynamic real estate company. And they're listed as a real estate company. And another important thing about them is that the St. Joe company has been sold. It used to be owned by the Alfred I. DuPont Testamentary Trust. They were the majority stockholder.
The DuPonts were early investors in this area.
Oh, DuPonts were big money.
Sure.
Okay. And so, but that company has been sold. It's been sold. Now it is owned by Fairhome Capital. Okay. And who is Fairhome Capital? Fairhome Capital is a group of hedge fund hyenas. Okay, this is a hedge fund. Hedge fund hyenas. And who owns that? Okay, Bruce Berkowitz. And who is Bruce Berkowitz? He is one of the, I believe, is one of the 50th richest people in the United States. And so therefore, we are giving Mr. Berkowitz $2 an acre property tax, and in fact, he is one of the 50th richest people in the United States. So here we are. We need money desperately for our schools and law enforcement and everything else. What do? We give $2 an acre tax breaks to one of the richest people in the country. And some of the information on him, Bruce Berkowitz, he donated $6.75 million to one of the Centers for History. He lives in Coral Gables. So in other words, he's got the money to donate $6.7 million to them, and here we are giving him $2 an acre tax breaks on the land that he owns.
We got to run to a break. This is fascinating stuff. On the other side, I want to drill down a little bit more, if that's at all possible, and maybe come up with some sort of theory on what are the motivations for this? Why are we giving this guy such a big break? We'll see on the other side. I'm Don Arias, and I'm talking with Greg Laplante, who's a candidate for Bay County Property Appraiser.
You're watching NewsView with Don Arias.
Welcome back to NewsView. I'm talking with Greg Laplante, and we're talking about some really interesting stuff that has piqued my interest, and it should pique yours too. Tell me about the what you think the motivations might be. I mean, are these developers, right? You talked about the St. Joe Company has out of the tree business, tree and pulp business, transitioned into basically the development business. They're still paying $2 an acre on land that they're actually developing. What would be the motivation for that? Is there something we're missing? Is there something we're not seeing? Are they grandfathered in somehow?
No. The property appraiser shall classify this land as either agricultural or non-agricultural. So therefore, the property appraiser is the one that is giving them this $2 per acre tax break, essentially. Okay. And so who are you giving it to? You're giving it to some of the richest people out there. The St. Joe Company. The St. Joe Company buys the Bay Point Marina for almost $10 million. The St. Joe Company hired former Walt Disney executive Peter Rummel to come out here and to transform the St. Joe Company into a real estate operating enterprise.
But what's wrong with that?
Oh, that's fine. That's okay. I'm all for it. But, however, my problem is the $2 per acre. Who pays the bills for Bay County?
Right.
Because you're giving $2 an acre tax breaks to the most wealthy corporations that there is out here. And in the meantime, they buy the marina for $10 million. So they get the marina. Bay County citizens get $2 per acre.
One thing we talked about during the break, you talked about a specific development that was going up, and there were lakeside properties there that were being developed, they're being built on, that are still paying that $2 an acre agricultural rate.
Right. That is the Lake Muriel subdivision, and I have it right here. This is 500 acres of lakefront property, and the tax bill on it is $1,000. And so that comes out to our $2 per acre in property tax.
Now, is this 2012 we're talking about?
Yes, sir. It is. It is still in there right now. This is the zoning map. That is a residentially zoned place right there. And you can see this is part of it, and this is the parcel right here. That's 500 acres of lakefront property that pays $1,000 in property tax. And again, you know, development is fine, whatever. My argument is a financial one. My argument is a property tax one. And again, this $2 an acre, because you're hurting the schools, you are hurting the sheriff's office, you're hurting everyone else in the county, because you have more than 60% of this land that is paying less than $2 per acre in property tax, and that don't pay the bills for Bay County.
I get that argument, but you know, at what point do you say it's no longer agricultural, it's residential? The first shovel in the ground? When they first say that we're going to develop this land, or we're no longer an agricultural company? I mean, at what point do you pull the trigger and say, you're no longer agricultural?
Well, you go over and first off, you remove them all. Secondly, you make them file the application for it, right, which is the ag application, which I showed you. Then you inspect these properties. And Don, you know a farm when you see a farm.
Sure.
I mean, This is not a farm. Vacant lot next door to your house, that's not a farm. And if you read the law on it, it's pretty specific. Any type of, like, for instance, timber farming, right? You're going to see fertilization on it. You're going to see ground clearing. You're going to see the fire suppression, the controlled burning on it. You're going to see good faith agricultural use of that land. And it's even spelled out in the law. And you're not seeing that.
Let me play devil's advocate with you just for a moment. Say Greg Laplante is elected, and you say, okay, everybody, no more agricultural, come and prove to me. What's that going to do to development when all of these tracts of land that we would like to see developed are taxed as residential?
Right. Well,
what's that going to do to development? You think it'll slow things down?
No, not at all.
Do you think there's an interest for Bay County to entice people to develop lands?
No, sir. It is said that the St. Joe Company has a 100-year supply of land. So my question to you is, can you wait around for the next 100 years at $2 per acre and waiting for them to develop that land?
Seems we've been waiting the last 100 years at $2 an acre. So.
Right. But that's the thing.
But is it fair? And is it right?
Oh, sure.
And is it legal?
Is it legal? That's actually a legal question, and a question for people, for subject to interpretation. But when you have a 100-year supply of land, and we don't have 100 years to wait around at $2 an acre for them to develop it, whatever. And what it really amounts to, whether you develop land or you don't develop land, that is a financial consideration. That is a market consideration. That's the free market. If there is a market to develop land and people have the money to do so, then they will do so. It's not a question for the property appraiser to do it. But can we wait around for the next 100 years at $2 an acre so that you can develop water sound type properties and sell them out for a fortune or whatever? It'll just never happen. And again, the St. Joe Company is under new ownership. They're selling this land. These people are corporate raiders, right? To them, money is everything. They're going to sell that land. They're going to strip the trees off it. It don't matter to them.
Well, there's nothing wrong with turning a buck.
Absolutely.
Right?
But there's nothing wrong.
We all like making money, don't we?
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Even if you're a corporation and you have a vested interest in it, right?
Is there anything wrong with paying your fair share of property taxes at a rate greater than $2 per acre? Is there anything wrong with bankrupting this community so that you can have plenty of money to give it to foundations and to historical events and just give it away because you have money coming out of your ears? And the reason you have money coming out of your ears is you don't pay your taxes at a rate greater than $2 per acre.
So what I'm hearing is we've got some fat cats here that are in this county.
That's what it is.
That aren't
And it's
doing
a
what the
simple
rest of us are
question.
doing.
It's a simple question, Don, to you and everyone else. Is the $2 an acre property tax, is that fair to you and your family?
We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. You're watching NewsView, and I'm talking with Greg Laplante.
We now return to NewsView. Here again, Don Arias.
Welcome back to NewsView. I'm Don Arias, and I'm talking with Greg Sowell. Greg Sowell, oh my God, what did I say?
Greg Laplante. It's a French-Canadian name.
It is, and quite honestly, Dan Sowell has an open invitation to appear on this show anytime if he thinks I'm all wet about this. We've contacted his office previously. He had asked me to come to his office and talk with him first, and I'm happy to do that when I can fit it into my schedule. However, open invitation, Mr. Sowell. Army Corps of Engineers. We're running out of time. This is only a half-hour show. So.
Right. There's a property that's very close to the Lake Muriel subdivision. It was assessed at approximately $168,000. It was recently sold to the Army Corps of Engineers for $1,050,000.
That's like 100% markup.
That is more than 5 times the assessed value of the property.
Holy mackerel.
And so this has been turned in.
Turned into
the FBI and some other people. Now, I don't know where it lands, but I know if you have something that is valued at approximately $200,000 and you sell it to the government for $1 million, that raises some big red flags.
So we should wait to see the investigation, and I hope you'll track that for us and come back and tell us what the upshot of that investigation is.
Yes, sir.
Greg LaPlante, it's been a really quick half hour. Why should Bay County vote for you?
Well, I'm trying to help the people in Bay County. We're going to try to minimize, I use the term get rid of $2 an acre. We're going to minimize it. We're going to try to save Bay County financially by minimizing this $2 per acre property tax.
Well, we're going to have to make that the last word. Thanks again. I
Thank you,
appreciate you
Don.
coming on, and I
Thank you.
appreciate you and citizens like Greg LaPlante for drilling down into things, stirring it up, and keeping Bay County interesting. You're watching News View. I'm Don Arias, whatever the heck my name is, and I'll see you next time.